Okay, here we go. We got it. Yay. All right. So first tweet from Logical Solutions we're going to talk about because it's going to be everywhere. You're going to hear a lot about it, and you're going to hear a lot of wrong shit about this, guys. So we're going to set the record straight right now. This modifier, this is correct. I'm not doubting what Logic is saying. The global loot modifier has been modified by around 22%, increased by 22%. This does not mean loot's increased by 22%. It does not. Hands down. Now, could have loot been increased by 22%? Yes. But this is... Let me turn those down, actually. We got yelled at last time for them. Everybody didn't like them. So they're going to be... Not there. Right there. No. Yep, right there. Let's turn those down a little, shall we? So they're not so obtrusive. So this is one modifier that people can change, or people can see when BSG changes it. By people, I mean the data miners, folks like that. This is one variable, though. There are many variables, 4 or 5. I don't know how many there are. I don't know that we actually know how many there are, but there are multiple variables. So if it was just 0.22 increase to the number 1, then yes, that could increase the loot by 22%. But we don't know if they modified some of the other variables and what they changed elsewhere. So hopefully this means they've turned the loot up a little bit on the global loot modifier, if you will. So there's a little bit more loot to be found. But we'll see. You know, this is going to take a couple of days to flesh out. Mind you, it's going to take a couple of days to flesh out a lot of other shit on where loot is, where loot isn't, what's actually changed, and the community to finally get some... their finger down on what's going on here. For those that haven't been paying attention, I say haven't been paying attention. That's a bad way to say it. For those that are not in the loop and have lives and don't just pay attention to Tarkov every day, last week on Friday, I think it was, BSG basically changed loot everywhere. They changed it to be... They're changing to dynamic loot, according to Nikita. Go watch my past Today in Tarkov video. It'll explain it in more detail there. But there's less loot to be found, and we can see. We're going to go through some stuff in the economy, but you're seeing it in the economy as well. It's not just hearsay. You can tell by supply and demand, huge price spikes and some rare stuff. So we'll have to kind of just keep an eye on where that's headed and what we're going to see there. Containers, in my opinion, seem to be, I don't want to say unaffected, but they still seem to be good to loot. It's the keyed rooms that have stuff inside of them, you know, like mark rooms or resort, labs, anything that's got a key and then there's open loose loot in it. That seems to be where the biggest hit has been on loot, making it harder to find. Another thing from Logic we will talk about is, let's close this and go to this one. It seems like the laboratory raider spawns have been zonified to actions. Meaning, as he's saying here, meaning instead of when you hit a button or whatever, and it calls raiders, they don't just spawn randomly, they spawn in specific locations. That's what he thinks. I'm not a labs guy. I don't know that much about it. So we'll keep an eye on this over the next couple of days and see if that's what's actually happening. As the labs mains, you know, guys like, I don't get into names, but all the guys that play lots of labs, you know, they'll be the first ones to notice it and let people know that, hey, this is what's going on. But I wanted to get that out there for those of you who do not have Twitter. Let's see, what else do we got here? Yes, the community podcast from Sneaky Russian. Now, Sneaky does a lot of the translations from the Russian podcasts, so that we can see when, you know, Nikita, he does like a Russian podcast and there's no English. He'll do some translations for it. I don't know if Nikita or anybody's going to be on this. I don't know if anybody from BSG is going to be on this. Right now, it's got Sneaky, Sigma, Geeks, and Iron Fists. But just if you're interested in it, community podcast, it will be 1900 MSK. Oh no, they're hosting another community podcast. I read that wrong the first time I read it. So 1900 MSK, I believe, is 10 a.m. Eastern or 10 my time. I'll let you do the conversions instead of guessing right now. But that is coming, another podcast. Hopefully we'll get some answers from the man himself in broken Russian, and they never seem to be correct because translation sucks between Russian and American. I say American, Russian, and English. Speak American. That's pretty much it for the news side of things. I think we'll get into the economy and what I've been seeing. Now, this here tells me that loot is harder to get. Simple. You don't have to need a data miner. You don't need anybody else to tell you, because the economy isn't going to lie to us, guys. The economy is going to be a direct representation of what is going on in the game. And with the high ticket items that open spawn in the world, i.e. they don't spawn in containers. You don't usually find them in containers. You usually find them sitting on a bookshelf or on a crate or in Techlight or, in the RBST room or wherever. The high value items that are rare have gone through the roof in price. And you can see that right here with phased arrays on the 3rd. So this is when the event kicked off, right? So now we have Aces worth a ton of money. You see it with graphics cards. I don't know of any other reason that would have caused this other than there's nothing, one event that can do this to all of these items. Where on the 3rd, you see all of these rare items like this. Spike, graphics cards, military cables, CFDMs, LEDXs. These are all items that spawn open world, guys. And for them all to go up at the same time, the only thing that makes sense is the dynamic loot system they've changed. So open world is harder to find. But interestingly enough, when we go look at, let me grab another tab here. When we go look at stuff that you loot in containers, it goes the other direction. So computers are one of my favorite ones because tons of people loot them. It's got very consistent loot. It's not like a bag that has tons of different things in it. There's only a handful of things that spawn in computers, right? And every one of those has gotten cheaper since the 3rd. Circuit boards were pretty steady right here, and now they've gotten cheaper. Wires, they've been trending down. We'll go look at the 1 month. They've been trending down before the 3rd, but this shows it even better. They have taken a huge hit since the 3rd. They're so cheap now. I mean, they're almost better to sell to the vendor than they are to sell on the flea market. Power cords, same deal, way cheaper. The peaks aren't there. Bolts, cheaper. Water filters, cheaper. Now, water filters are different. These are an open world, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, is it's not everything. But I think the player interchange is probably one of the best places to get water filters, right? I think everybody will agree with that. You go to Ollie and you go in the back, and there's just a lot of water filters. So what's happening is players are being pushed to different parts of the map. Since the tech spawns don't have tons of loot in them anymore, they're going to the different parts of the map to find stuff like water filters. To do it. But bolts, power cords, wires, printed circuit boards all come out of containers. So people are looting those more often. It may not necessarily say that the loot is better in the containers. I think it is, just from just from looting toolboxes and crates and stuff. I don't feel like the shit's changed all that much in the containers. But this might be just a product of people doing more of it since the open world isn't good, which makes everything cheaper, supply and demand, right? So super cool thing to look at, just another indicator outside of hard data numbers on what's going on with this dynamic loot. People are looting different places, different loot's coming out of the maps. We've seen a lot of things cheaper. We'll look at sugar here real quick. I'll just look at sugar for you guys. I want to show you something. Sugar's been cheap the last couple of days. You see this dip, but that's normal with the weekends, guys. You usually see sugar get cheaper on the weekends. I think there's a little bit of downward pressure on this because people are going to woods to loot, and there's more sugar getting pulled out of raids, just because how people are changing around. But once we get through this long weekend, today's technically part of the weekend still for folks. We are going to probably see this come back up. I'm looking to sell my sugar this week. I have a Holodink almost completely full of it. I'm aiming for 75K. Set a price that makes sense for you guys and cash in. Okay, so we're going to get into crafting here. We're going to talk about a couple of things you guys can do to make money. And and where everything else is headed right now. So these are the top crafts in each workstation. Again, these are just your 24-hour averages. You can find better crafts. I'll talk about some more specifics. But one thing that's crazy is you can make money in all your modules now all of a sudden. Moonshine has gotten to where it makes money. And if you have a level 3 Intel Center, this is based off of no Intel here. So right now you are going to be making money on everything. So like Moonshine's the big one, right? This says you're only making 700 rubles of profit. Basically, you're breaking even. But if I come in here and turn on, I think if I turn that on, it'll do it, right? I don't know if this matters, but we'll do it anyways. My crafting's like 27. Whoa. Oh yeah, you can't do that. You gotta do this. 27. Wait, what? 2.7. There we go. 2.7. I think we're higher, but that'll work. Fee reduction is quite a bit here now. So when you look at that, now you're making 8,000 rubles. So that's the big deal with Intel 3. These guys here, this is the big deal behind this. What else? Magnets are good craft. If we go look at the workbench specifically, magnets, there's not really much any reason to craft anything other than magnets. You can get away with wires. If you're still shopping for VOGs and doing it correctly, you can make quite a bit of money. They're cheap right now. I'm thinking they'll get more expensive during the week. We'll see. Red gunpowder's back into a favorable craft, which is always amazing to me when this comes back. We'll see how far it lasts. You got your green gunpowder, and then your number one craft, as always, if you want your single biggest hit of profit, is BP. I think this needs to get nerfed personally, just like M61 did. I think for game design, you shouldn't be able to craft the most powerful ammo, one of the most powerful ammos, and make profit off of it. Not very much, right? It's actually a pretty good craft, and this is why you see so much. This is one reason you see so much BP around. BP is the new M61 from last wipe. Oh, that's right. I want to talk about nutrition unit. So it's hard to make money in the nutrition unit. You can see here you can do it with slickers a little bit, but there's two things that I've been doing in the nutrition unit to help level my hideout crafting and hideout management without burning a ton of money, and that is using items in the nutrition unit in other modules. So for example, slickers, you can craft slickers and turn those into scav vests, which turn those into is a ripstop or cordura, whichever. That makes money, right? And it keeps you from losing money in here. And then same thing with, you can do it with energy drinks. You can turn these into mules, which will help. And then you've got your barters for like whiskey and vodka and stuff like that you can use for barters. Those are the best ways right now to keep from losing money in the nutrition unit. Over at the laboratory, there are some good crafts here, you know, with bleach and whatnot, especially if you're good at finding your components. Like I said last on Saturday, I'm just cycling between these two crafts because they're easy right now. I buy slickers, I turn them into scav vests, which then I turn into ripstop, and then I buy 4 slings from Ragman and turn it into cordura. That's what I'm doing, just to cycle my crafts, so I don't have to think about it a lot. I can pay attention to other stuff than this right now. But if you're good at bleach, you can make a ton of money here. Keep that in mind. You just got to get good at buying your components at the right price and crank out bleach. Intelligence Center I want to bring up because we've seen this turned on its head. With Intel, again, another rare in-world item that we saw spike like crazy because of this dynamic loot. These are a really, really, really good craft now. Really good craft. You can make more with VPXs, but the time is longer. So for me, I'm cycling between flash drives and intelligence. And if you want that extra little bonus, take your flash drives, turn them into dog tag cases with Jaeger, sell it back to Therapist for 190K. You make even more money here because this is actually worth, what's 195 divided by 3? It's 60, 70, 65,000, I think, right? Is that right? Yeah, so right on the money. So you're making quite a bit here if you're doing that trade every 3 of these, and then just buy your flash drives and turn those into Intel. But that's what I've been doing. That is where we're at with the Intel Center. And then lastly, the med station. It's kind of weird right now, guys. You can do a lot better than what I'm showing here if you're buying components. One thing a lot of people don't realize, and we'll go do it right now actually, is you can get your AI2s off of Fence. And this seems like a lot of work, guys. I understand it. But Fence picks these AI2s up off of Raid, and you can get them cheaper when they show up on here. So level 4 Fence, if you have it, he'll sell meds, and he'll sell them quite a bit cheaper. You can occasionally even find, oh my god, there's even ammo here. What? Man, that was already bought. So you can find some deals on Fence if you're paying attention and you're not daydreaming like I just was, and it's a little bit cheaper. You can get AI2s off of here. You can get bandages, things like that for crafting that make it a little bit cheaper when it comes to that side of things. So just keep that in mind. That is a way to squeak a little bit more profit out of your crafts. I'm cycling between AI2 and pile of meds, occasionally a mule if I've got the components for that, and then I craft defibrillators at night for the long craft. Just make sure you buy your components ahead of time or craft your magnets, because the magnets are super expensive. That's where most of your money is going right now, is magnets and power banks. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot left to discuss on crafting. I wanted to take a quick look at barters. We hadn't done barters in the past, but I just kind of want to show some folks some things so that, because they don't usually understand that if you get cases from tasks or from finding in raid, you know, like if you get a med case or Hull Ink or something from in raid, or a money case, or you get weapons cases and your thick cases from tasks, it is always better, almost always better, especially right now, to sell that case and then barter for another one. You end up, like, if you do that with a weapon case right now, you end up with 3 million extra rubles. If you have any weapon cases found in raid, sell them, barter them back, and this is all for buying stuff, buying at market prices. You're going to end up with more rubles and the same case. But that's pretty much it. That pretty much wraps up today. Really enjoying doing these. I hope you guys like them too. Patreons, shout out for the Patreons. I'm doing this because Church is going to do magic of editing. For those of you that are live right now on Twitch, he's going to do the magic of editing. Thanks for the Patreons for the support. You guys are amazing. I love it. You guys, aside from those guys get to see videos early. It's one of the treats they get, plus their own Discord chat that we have some conversations in occasionally. What else? Like and subscribe. You know, the usual mojo. Hope you guys are getting a lot out of these videos, because I'm actually enjoying doing them a lot at the start of the stream.